I'm sitting here working on this Borg series. Now, if you're watching this video on demand and it's any time after March 16th, 2018, I'd still be very interested in your opinions, but probably not going to be able to put them in the video itself. And since this is out of nowhere, if no one shows up, I completely understand that, but we'll just have to go with it. So, while I'm waiting for people to come up, for people to join, let me set the scenario for you. Tomorrow we're doing the all-out Borg Wars. The Borg will be completely invading the Alpha Quadrant. They'll be attacking the Alpha Quadrant 20 years after Endgame. And so many years after Nemesis. So it'll be set in the Nemesis era. I've been working on this for a little bit, and I've already got the starting integers, but I wanted your opinion on what you thought of them, because honestly, after Voyager, really after Nemesis, there isn't a lot of information there, and a lot's left up in the air. So I wanted your opinion on it. What's going on, 14K Liam, Darien, Jeroen, Zegers, and Daniel McDonald, and Michael Kelly. What's going on? So let me go ahead and set the integers that I got. Give me your opinion. Again, as I stated, it'll be after Nemesis. I set the time period to be around around 2400. So to be in the 25th century. It'd be 2400. That's about 20 years or so after Endgame occurred. And the reason for that is because in Endgame, there was massive damage done to the Borg Collective. We do have reason to believe that the Borg Collective still survived, but there was just an untold amount of damage to it. And I think that they would still have all of the knowledge they had beforehand for the chaos that survived, but it would take decades for them to rebuild. And of course, they would still just be a shadow of themselves. And let me run down my list real quick. Give me you guys' opinion. So, the neurolytic pathogen did massive damage to the collective, causing it to fracture, of course. The original transwarp hubs were destroyed. Now, all of them were destroyed. I just watched the last episode to confirm, and yeah, the entire network is gone. We know that some ships and some installations did survive, and so it would take 22 years to just rebuild even a semblance of what they had. Once rebuilt, I don't really think that the Borg would have the Borg Queen. I think we effectively see her die. Not only that, the Borg want to move towards perfection, and this quite clearly shows why having a Borg monarchy is a bad idea. So I think it will return ultimately to the way we saw it in the Best of Both Worlds before the First Contact retcon, where it's all just one semblance of a mind. I think they would still have the knowledge of the armor that Janeway had made. Remember, in the episode, the Queen assimilated the knowledge of the armor, and so was able to bypass it. That said, the transphasic torpedoes were still very, very effective, so I think that they'd still be effective against the Borg. I'm going to stop it right there and see what your guys' opinions on that real quick. Innocuous. Even a single Borg drone could restart the collective, right? I agree. In theory, a single Borg drone could. We know that it took only one or two drones to really dominate the Enterprise E. So, I mean, you just build upon that. Don Juan, Untold Damage, 7-9 said there were 6 hubs that she knew about all around the quadrant. They only destroyed 1. Not true. The way the dialogue leads me to believe, and what happens on screen, they say the transwarp network. Not the hub, the entire network. It's pretty confusing. I'm open to being wrong on that. In fact, I would love for the other transwarp hubs to exist, but the way the dialogue and the episode reads to me, it says network. Daniel McDonald, the Borg Queen was a telepathic race, species 125, that linked the Borg together over light years apart. I'd be interested to see where you got that, because I don't remember that anywhere in canon. They were able to talk to each other across the galaxy, though. Anti-Tracker has an interesting video coming up where he thinks that maybe if they go back in time or they travel too far, they need the Queen, which is why she existed. But from what we can see, their network spans a great vast amount. But, yeah, based on everything I've seen, and Don Juan, you're welcome to go back and take a look, the Transwarp network was completely destroyed. All the hubs are gone. And the way it made it seem like is once you destroy one, it cascades and destroys all the others. It's kind of like what happened in Mass Effect. From there, when it comes to Starfleet would have taken the upgrades and began improving on them from Voyager, with the tech also made to fight the Dominion, so armor, weapons, and even other pieces of equipment like shields would be significantly outfitted among all Starfleet ships. You'd also see more Prometheus ships, you'd see more Sovereigns, you'd see more... oh man, what am I looking for? You'd see more Acuras. And I really think, in this scenario, the more I think about it, if they continued on their trajectory, Starfleet would be a beast from a military standpoint. They would be just absolutely powerful. And by the way, you guys might hear stuff in the background. That's because this is off the cuff. Usually I try to make sure that it's very quiet. There's a good chance that it won't be. Very unlikely that after Endgame they have the resources and infrastructure to come after the Federation again. I would disagree on that for a couple of reasons. First off, the scenario requires me to disagree with that, and that's what people wanted me to think about. But secondly, I think it's legitimate and logical that within about 20 years they could rebuild somewhat of what they had. The Borg are insanely good at getting resources and efficiently making things. They're all about perfection. So building up like that isn't necessarily something hard to do. Look at the episode in Enterprise. Look at the, again, First Contact with the Enterprise E. Enterprise is a great example of that. During the episode, within 12 or so hours, they take a Warp 1 vessel and make it a Warp 5? The shields and the weapons are increased exponentially. They would just do that, and just over a couple of decades, I think, could rebuild. And I think could pose a threat to the Federation. Not one where the Federation could... not one where it was a lock that the Federation would lose mind, but one that is a threat. Wouldn't Starfleet punish Janeway for using future technology? No, they won't, because she's Janeway. Temporal Prime Directive would stop the armor, wouldn't they? Nope, they didn't. Or should they have? Or should they have? Obviously, she was promoted to Admiral. I mean, yeah, we can argue if they should. There's a lot of things she did. What she did to the Borg, I'm not necessarily upset about. She did a lot of other things that should have her in a jail, but it was very political for them to make her an Admiral. But, I mean, so... do you guys see any glaring issues with what I just did? This one's going to be pretty short, as I said. It's been requested that I do this stuff with you. So that I come on if I want to talk about my thoughts or my ideas. I don't know that I'll be putting it on this channel specifically. I may go and do this on Twitch more so that I don't want to annoy people with updates from here. The scenario to use here is a basic World War I in space. I'll think about that. So, even decades later, I think the Cardassians are still going to be in a pretty bad position, because there's not really a lot they can do. They're in a resource... they're in a place where there's no resources. They can't expand. Their military is going to be curbed. They're going to completely and utterly rely on other species to survive. And I think that the Federation is going to go out of their way to help the Cardassians. I think we're going to see what is the beginning of a Cardassian movement to join the Federation. I truly believe that. We know in canon the Klingons joined the Federation by the 26th century. So after the Dominion War, we know that the Klingons are left in a pretty bad spot. They've been devastated by 3 different wars. 2 of them that they started themselves. They don't really have a lot of resources, so I think that they're going to be melding and becoming a part of the Federation as well. The Romulans didn't take the brunt of the fight. When they did fight, they lost a lot, but I think that the Romulans are going to be in a relatively all-right position. I think their impact would be more political than it would be from a military instance, and especially after Nemesis, when you consider that they had their own quote-unquote civil war. Nemesis leads us to believe that they're in a weakened position, so I actually stand corrected on that. So Romulans are probably going to be back to being behind their own borders, being very what's the word I'm looking for? Just staying within their own borders, not worrying about anything else. So you have the Klingons, who are on their way to becoming a part of the Federation, so closely tied to Starfleet. I believe the Cardassians are closely tied to Starfleet, though it's an impoverished land for all intents and purposes. And I think that the Ferengi are probably more moving towards the Federation, though still have sovereignty, because we see what happens with Grand Nagus Rom and all of the changes happening there. And then you have the Dominion, who are staying behind the Gamma Quadrant. Though within a couple of decades, I think it would make sense that we would start to see a little bit of trade, a little bit of interaction, maybe even some Gamma Quadrant, some Dominion ships being allowed back into the Alpha Quadrant, though at a steady stream. So the question becomes, you have this very powerful Starfleet that, for all intents and purposes, now can count on the Cardassians and Klingons for anything they want. Romulans are very introverted. And then the Dominion, they probably could strong-arm the Dominion into helping if they wanted to. And so the Borg have been almost utterly destroyed. 20 years goes by, they continue to rebuild, finally get another transwarp hub up. Maybe not as big, but maybe bigger than it is. And I think they... I honestly, last question for you. I don't think that they would do an all-out attack like you see in Worst of Both Worlds. I think that's the name of the story of the book. Where they just attack with hundreds and hundreds of cubes. First off, I don't think they have that ability. But secondly, I think they would probably start somewhere outside of the scope of Starfleet, the Starfleet's eyes. Maybe on the edges of Cardassian space, and create their own alpha unimatrix and start slowly there. Once prepared, do an all-out strike into Cardassian territory and move to assimilate Cardassia very, very quickly, keeping the transwarp hub as their way of getting resources. Now, this all is going to come out tomorrow, and you guys have to watch it, even though I'm giving some spoilers. But what are your thoughts with that? And then I think we'll end it there. I'm just curious. Captain Jesse 1, have the Borg assimilated the Dominion and the Borg have a stronger fighting force? Yeah, I just don't know if that they'd have the ability at that point. I think the Dominion would be stronger, and there's a legitimate reason for taking out the Alpha Quadrant, or at least the Federation. The Federation has been the bane of the Borg, has been the only one to really put up a fight against them, saving for Species 8472. Cardassia is Weimar Germany. If they play it right, then they will join the Federation and then make another threat that needs to be dealt with. Can the Borg make new drones? I remember seeing baby drones, but I figured they were born organic and then assimilate. Yeah, that's some inconsistencies there. The Borg would still retain the ability to assimilate. They would still have their tubules, their assimilation technology. So the fact that that's there, I'm not worried about that. In fact, that's probably the only saving grace for them. Like, when we originally see them in The Best of Both Worlds, it seems like it's an operation process. And I don't think they'd have the numbers to do that, but the assimilation via nanoprobes would still be there. Nathan Norman, the Borg will establish themselves like you said, but I think they would not attack Cardassia as their main thrust. I think they would feint Cardassia and hit the Breen and the Gorn first. Huh. That's high-level tactics. That's something not observed from the Borg generally. I mean, I guess you could say that they assimilate and they would change. They would almost need to. I'll have to think on that one, because that would require a tactical prowess that we don't see with the Borg. The Borg generally strong-arm. Could the Borg still make babies? I mean, I guess, but I don't think they'd do that. The Borg had 1,000 years, most of the Delta Quadrant, enormous shipyards, and probably hundreds of thousands of ship. Whatever damage Janeway did would be inefficient compared to that. Would be insignificant. In comparison to that. The damage was pretty stout. They destroyed Unimatrix 0, what was it, 01 or 001? And brought, as Janeway said, chaos to order. And assimilation, from what we can tell, just spans almost the entire galaxy. Now, I agree that they had a large swath of the Delta Quadrant, that it effectively belonged to them for all intents and purposes. But I think that you would have seen a lot of fracturing, and it would have took a lot of work to get them back together. In fact, I could see it going like in StarCraft. I don't remember if it's. I think it's StarCraft 1 with the add-ons. I don't think it's StarCraft 2. Where what was it? The Earth, United Earth, whatever, comes in and uses this technology that breaks up all of the Zerg. And so then you have the Queen of Blades, and she has to come in and reconstitute them. And when she gets close to them, she can bring them in. Yeah, I'm okay. Got a super chat, guys, just so you know, this is how I survive. This channel continues going on. The mouth you just heard gets fed because of this. Thanks to Innocuous Remarks says, just wanted to say thanks. Love your content. I'm going to become a patron today. Rock out, brother. Rock out. Patreon's another way to support it. Because I can do things like this, I can come on and work all day on a video for you guys, is because of stuff like that. And, of course, viewers like you. Once they have taken Nathan Norman, once they have taken them, they have more drones and tech, thus allowing them to turn against the Miradon and the Ferengi while holding as much as the Federon, Klingon, and Romulan fleets trapped there. It doesn't need war, it needs a computer virus like the one used to take them down. Me style. Without transwarp hubs, then you could get Mini's GOG faction. Yeah, so as I said before, I said at the beginning, I'm going to allow them to remake a hub, a small one, because they'd still have that technology, still have that know-how. They would just have to build it, and that would be what they would be doing for the decades that they'd gone quiet. I'm just going to have to think on that. Would the Borg at this point have evolved to use tactics, or would they still attempt to strong-arm? I don't know. I'll think on that. I think that's a good point. They have to divide and conquer or they're done. They have to use high-level tactics or they just bum rush to their deaths. Well, I mean, that's what they've done historically, right? We saw that at the Battle of Sector 001. We saw that every time they do it. They just bum rush. Though, we know they have tactics because you have a tactical cube, right? You have spheres. They obviously make things with different points. Tactical cubes were when they were serious about fighting. Maybe they'll build the 8 megaships. So the patrons got to decide when this era happened. And Armada, where the megaship comes in, I offered that as an option. It didn't win. The Nemesis won. But yeah, we would have seen Armada megaships if not for that. The Borg would have tactics of Jean-Luc Picard. That's true. And that's a good point. So they had Jean-Luc Picard. Picard knew tactics. He knew how to work stuff through. He was able to understand what was coming. See, this is why I have these conversations, because you guys convince me. By the way, really cool thing, Star Trek Adversaries. It's a game, kind of think Hearthstone. They have integrated so you guys will get a chance to, so that people can challenge each other directly. Go and subscribe. Go and follow me on twitch.tv/Lore Reloaded. I'm going to start doing stuff, playing games like that where you can come on, we'll hang out, we'll be on Discord and chat while we fight each other to the death. And I'll be doing some giveaways for them out of my own pocket, just because they're a good company. I'm not a huge Hearthstone fan, but they're a good company, and I always want to support the good guys. But yeah, so I think we're going to leave it there. I'll be ending it fairly shortly. Let me know in the comments. Also, this is just going to be like any other. Comment below. You'll get a chance to win a Galaxy-class starship. Or you'll also have a chance, if you become a patron as low as $1, to win not a Sovereign, an NX-01. The Borg, and last, but I will address this, Bird of Prey 5. Why wouldn't the Borg retry time travel again? Because that wasn't the scenario. I also think that they probably wouldn't have the resources at this point, is my quote-unquote reason. But yeah, so I like that. I like Nathan Norman. The Borg have assimilated potentially thousands of tactical geniuses and military commanders. They'll have to use that as much as possible. I think that is... I think that's a good way of moving forward and explaining that. Nellie Jones, you help me get through the mornings. No, Nellie Jones, you help me get through the mornings. So I'm always glad I can do that. In the near future, hopefully mid to end of the year, I'm going to start doing like 3 shows in the morning to have parity with my 3 shows that I do at night throughout the week. I got to wait for a couple of things to fall into line for that to happen, but I'm really looking forward to that. Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. If you don't mind me coming on and just spitballing this stuff with you, if it's annoying to you and you're going to turn off notifications or unsubscribe if I do this, let me know that too, because I may just move to Twitch, and then people who are interested can go to Twitch to take a look at. But guys, I do want to thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. Also, now I'm going to stare at the screen because I got to wait for it to update so you can see it so it doesn't cut off early. But I will see you on the next Lore Reloaded.